So here we're going to log in to CS Connect, which is the online download portal to which, when we send cases to quote me, well, this is where they go. And you log in with the Andrew@dental.inc email address with the password. We sign in. And we should see a whole list of recent scans, the most recent being at the top. And they're organized by date. The names don't appear over here, but sometimes they do appear in the comments or the notes section here. So this is the most recent scan we did, and we're going to download it by clicking this down arrow and select STL file. You'll see a message and a little box pop up in the corner while the data is downloaded to whatever computer you're working on at the time. So it will dump into the downloads folder on whatever PC you're using. And after it downloads, you'll see that it downloaded into a compressed folder or a zip folder. And we'll have to unzip or extract the data within that folder before we can use it in Meshmixer or send it to the 3D printer or anything like that. So it takes a couple of seconds to download typically. And when it does, it'll either pop up in a folder that will just kind of appear before your eyes, or you'll have to click this up arrow and say show in the folder, but here it just popped up. So it's in the folder, and you might think you can use these files, but you can't because they're within a zip folder. Okay, so when it's like that with a little zipper on the folder icon, we have to right click and extract all, and we want to select a new folder, and I generally save all of these into a folder on my computer that I've labeled. And we're going to make a patient name, last name, comma, first name, and save those files into this selected folder. Click extract, and now they'll pop into that new folder, and these are the files that we can actually use. So you'll see if you've got the settings, we can kind of look at them in 3D within Windows, and now they'll appear before our eyes. If they don't, you can right click and say open with any kind of 3D viewer, but we want to open them in Meshmixer. So we're going to click that and let Meshmixer load up, and you'll see that lower arch file appear here in just a second. And then we want to drag in this upper arch file too, because we want to work on both of them. And we want to say append because we don't want it to delete the first one. We want it to add to the first lower arch file we opened the program with. And now we've got the upper and lower scans of this patient in Meshmixer. So get your objects browser out of the way and maybe deselect one by either clicking the eyeball associated with that one, or you can say Control-V that toggles it on or off on the keyboard. Okay, so we'll process the lower one first. So again, these scans are a little bit ragged around the edge. It would make for a weird looking perimeter to the model base if we don't clean it up first. So we want to either click select, or you can hit the S button. It's a little bit faster. And if you want to paint the perimeter, you can do that. But I would definitely dial down the size of the paintbrush if you want to do it like that, and just start making a perimeter like this. But an easier way to do it, I think, is to start clicking outside the model perimeter, and it'll start creating a line that you're drawing. So I just try to draw the line rather smoothly, and if you turn the line into a lasso, it'll select that whole area, and that's kind of the area I want to delete. So I'm going to click delete, but I don't want to delete that little bit. So what you can do is hold down Control. So if I just hit the left mouse button, I'm painting orange, and that's going to also be area that I delete. I don't want to do that. When I have areas I don't want to delete, like this little spot, if I hold the Control button down when I click, it does the opposite. It wipes away the orange area. So if there's anything that's selected that I don't want to delete, I can go back and kind of fix that by holding Control down and painting that area away. So I'm happy with those areas to delete, so I'm going to hit the delete button. And then we can also kind of clean this area up a little bit better. Maybe like that. Delete. Come at it from this side. Delete. Maybe a little bit here. Don't really need all of that. Delete. And it's a little bit of a corner right there that we'll delete. Okay, so that one's pretty well trimmed up. Now I'm going to zoom in to the edge to where I can almost see every individual pixel. And I'm just going to let that red dot fall right onto the edge. And with it right on the edge, I'm going to double click. And you see it just selected the perimeter. But it's kind of a rough looking perimeter. So I'm going to go to Modify and optimize that boundary so it's all connected. And then I'm going to smooth that boundary. And there's hotkey buttons for that, so you can just select it from the menu here, or on the keyboard you can hit the O button and then the S button, and then you'll accept it, and that will optimize and smooth that boundary. So while it's still orange, but now optimized and smooth, I'm going to hit the T button for transform, which I could also do by going to the, well, I don't even know where it is. I always just hit T. So if I hit T, then I get these arrows. I don't really like how those arrows aren't really lined up and down with the model. So if you see this L and then you see this W, if you click the W, it will upright the arrows for you. So now it's kind of more or less straight up and down. So I want to drag the perimeter of this model down and start building a base. I'm going to drag that green arrow down. I'm going to drag it way down because I'm going to clip all this stuff out in just a moment. So that one is perpendicular. That's going up and down. I like that. I'm going to say OK, accept. And now I've got a skirt that's kind of drawn around the entire perimeter of this model. So I'm going to now select from the Edit tab the Plane Cut tool, and it will pop up. And most of the time you want to check to see if this is closed off and it's created a floor or a base. And in this case it has not. So there's something amiss with some of the borders on this perimeter that we created. So that's not going to work. I want to cancel that and figure out why that didn't close itself off. There's probably some sort of little hole or overlap in the mesh there. So what you can do if you encounter this is hit the S button for select, double click this whole green area, and it just selects the new surfaces. So what we can try to do is go to deform. You can smooth that and see if that closes it. And it might be that little red hole right there, which we could see that cleared it up. Maybe, probably. And now we can unselect and see if the plane cut tool will work now. And yes, it did. So now we've got a floor to the model base, and we'll just cut it right there. Now if it comes out and the first plane cut kind of comes in as proposed like crazy like this, we don't want that. And you can, yes, use these arcs and re-rotate it into position, but just like the select tool, if you've got the model kind of oriented straight across the screen, you can start out here and click where there is no model and just drag a straight line across, and that will become the plane cut line. So that's nice and straight across, but that's a problem because I'm clipping out the part I want. So there's this purple arrow over here that flip-flops it. So now it'll keep the part I do want. And again, we've got a nice floor here. It's all consistent, it's all smooth. It's plane cut flat, and we'll say accept. So this is great, but this is now a really solid block of the model, and it's too tall. But what we're going to do is then select Hollow from the Edit tab, and let that process. And it'll give you a visualization of what it's going to clip out. And we'll say accept because it's usually on 2 millimeters of thickness, and that's fine for the thickness of the walls of the model. And we'll say OK. And it doesn't really change what it looks like on the outside. But what's important is that we need now to go back to the plane cut tool. And now we'll draw a line a little bit higher, more or less where it is now, but just to do it over. We'll strike a line right there. And you'll see that when we invert this and we clip out the bottom, now we've got a hollow interior, a nice 2 millimeter shell of the base left over, and that's a much more efficiently and effectively printable model right there. So we are going to call that one done. So we'll export this one because now we need to save it as a modified STL file separately from the original one. Now we can just go to a new folder. And save it here, so lower all. And make sure that the save as type is selected as STL binary format, not any other format. It needs to be that one exactly, and save. So just to repeat the process, we're going to unselect the lower one and now visualize the upper one and repeat the same steps. So real quickly, we're going to hit the S button to open our select tool. We're going to clip out all the raggedy edges. Let that select. We're going to see if it clipped anything we don't want. Like sometimes if it was straight across, and I would say do it like this. Clip out everything at once. Look what happens sometimes. It looks like it might be good from here or here, but I've clipped out a lot of that palatal tissue. I may not want to do that, so I could erase that by holding the control button down, dialing my paintbrush size up, and just wiping that away from the area that's going to be deleted, like this. And now all that remains is the areas I don't care about on the outside, so we'll just delete those by hitting the delete button. So that's a little bit raggedy, so I'm going to clip that area out a little bit lower, delete, clip these areas out, delete, and this, delete that, and delete all of that. So that's pretty smooth around the outside, maybe not so much right there. Whatever, that's pretty good. Okay, just to show you a couple more things that can be done. So this guy was gagging and we didn't necessarily need to get the whole palette. And some of the things that you can do, you won't have to do this routinely, but it's nice to know that you can. If you've got a big hole across an area that we definitely want to repair, now we are doing this kind of arbitrarily. It's not really an accurate representation of what his mouth looks like, but these are some of the things I have to do to fix the scans in the background. So if I want to kind of connect this to this and fill in this big hole, I can kind of select an area here and select an area here, and then I can go to Edit and Bridge, which there's a hotkey, Control button and B at the same time, will create a bridge from one side to the other. So that's pretty good. I'll accept that. That's fine. And now we might be able to go to Analysis and Inspector, and the little ball that's connected to the hole of the same color, we want to select this blue one and see if it'll fill in that gap. There it goes. Okay, so that one is a much more effectively repaired model. So if I needed to make a denture and that's the best scan we could get, this would be something that's reasonably usable for me to make, say, an immediate denture. One thing I would probably do is click the Sculpt tool and go with the Robust Smooth tool, and that's probably a pretty good size, and just try to smooth that out just a little bit. You kind of are melting the surface down a little bit smoother where we've added that data across that bridge. And sometimes I have to use this tool, say there's a little bit of a scan problem with the soft tissue in the roof of the mouth, there's some foldovers. I can kind of fix those, just like you'd be scraping away bubbles from a stone model that you poured up. And I can fix that little area, I can fix that, things like that. Okay, so let me clip this corner a little bit more. Oh, that worked. Control Z undoes everything you don't like. Okay, so this one's now ready for us to go back through the same motions to create the base. So I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to dial this down to 0. I'm going to select just one little pixel right at the edge, double click. I'm going to hit the O button, the B button, and then say accept, because now it's got a nice smooth perimeter. It's still orange, it's still highlighted. I'm going to hit the T button for transform. I'm going to click the W, drag the green arrow up, And it's pretty straight. We might want to shift it a little bit this way, a little bit back. And that's pretty good. We'll say accept. And now we'll go through our plane cuts, and we'll see if we can get this to work out the first time. I'm going to drag my line over right there. And again, it didn't build me a base, maybe because I have it too high. Let's drag it down and see. There it goes. So sometimes if you drag your line across some of the holes in the back, it won't close it, and that's the only issue. So we'll accept that, and now we've got a really tall solid block that we want to make hollow by clicking Edit, Hollow. And we'll accept that. Orient it straight on with the camera one more time, and say plane cut again. And I'll draw a line probably about right there. Maybe drag it down a little bit more so it's not so tall. We'll take a look at that from all angles. Oh, see? I cut out the roof of the mouth. I don't want to do that. So that means I need to drag this whole thing up a little bit more until it's just right over the top of that palette, which makes the base a lot taller, but that's good because I'd rather have the roof of the mouth in the model when I can get it, and it doesn't add that much more time or resin to the print job. So that's good. I'll accept that, and that one's ready to export as well. So we go to File, Export, should be the same folder you just made, and now we'll just type lower hollow, and it's STL binary format. Oh, that's the upper one, sorry. Upper, STL binary, save. That's it. Now they are ready to import into the 3D printer software and do all the printer setup steps with the build supports and all that, but it should be as simple as that.